really, this is a process, thinking about it, setting up an infrastructure, but all of that is completed by people, and we're all in the St. Louis region. So I'd like to explore a little bit about how you find the talent that you need, any perhaps onboarding that you may or may not do, and then really what's needed in order to facilitate this type of thinking so that we can leverage our data more quickly than what we are now. So Andy, since the microphone's close to you, why don't we start there?
Sure. You're absolutely right. Talent is a challenge in this space, and honestly, it's a challenge not only because of the type of work, working with data. That's not necessarily something that everyone sort of wakes up and realizes they want to do one day. It's also that even with data, right, the technologies around the data stack is fundamentally changing. In fact, they look more like a software stack in a lot of ways than they look like a traditional data stack, which adds complexity. So if you take someone who says, I'm a data guy or gal, and ask them what they do, they may describe that I manage relational databases, or I help create data visualizations in some BI platform. The reality is those are skills we still need, but those only make up about 15 to 25% of the skills we are looking for in a new candidate. And so, yeah, we have to look at different avenues. We need to interview differently. We need to interview people, like give them tech tests that look more like how to build a back-end software solution than necessarily a data solution. Because we realize when you're trying to create services on top of every piece of information you have to have those skills. You have to think about data not just in the massive sense of everything that's in this system, but think about the data in flight and the data in its usage as well. And so those require a different frame of reference. So we look at different pipelines of talent, different partnerships within the community. We tackle schools differently. We don't just look for people that are maybe MIS. We look for as much CS and everything else, and any other sort of channel. We look at groups like Launch Code and so forth that are helping embed modern tech stack skills into resources as a leapfrog into other avenues as well. So it's a challenge, and honestly one I think we as a community are doing pretty well in St. Louis. I see us continuing driving innovation through the startup groups, through different knowledge groups that are forming, and I look forward to more and more dialogue around how we continue to elevate that skill across the board.
So I do think it is a challenge. I'll talk about a couple of the things that we're doing. So first of all, we think a lot about partnerships and consulting help because a lot of what we're doing is very new, and we don't want to try to go through it on our own at the speed with which we could try to do it on our own. And so partnerships and consulting help has become pretty core to our work. One of the things we try to do there is if it's something that we want to improve our skill on, we make sure we write into the contract how that's going to happen. So that transfer of knowledge between that partnership or that consulting firm and to our own individuals is part of the contract. So that's one area. In terms of building our own, recruiting process and onboarding process, at least for me, I'm of the mind that my people may not stay long. The people who will stay with me are the ones that just really are passionate about changing healthcare. But if you're driven by money or other motivators, you're not going to stay with me. But it doesn't mean that I don't want you as an employee. So we've really looked at clarifying what the roles and responsibilities are, being very clear about what an onboarding process and what a training can look for or should look like, and then finding out who can help us train people. So looking at different avenues for where you can get the training that you need as opposed to trying to build it all in-house. And then, like many people, you build very clear 90-day plans so that people understand what's expected of them and sort of you can see if they're ramping fast, right? Because if not, then you need to do something different with that. Then I guess those are really the two main points. I was going to talk a little bit about sort of the other softer skills, but I think I covered it, so.
Thank you.
So I don't I think the only thing I would add, because I think we're all fairly similar, is, well, first, Centene is hiring. Just so you all know, we're growing and we continue to grow. So a big part of it is really getting the Centene name out there, that we are a St. Louis-based headquartered company. When I started with Centene, 10 years ago, people were like, is that a bubble gum or something? Centene? No, that's Dentine. So it's been great to see, getting a little bit more name brand recognition, doing these types of things and talking with the community as much as possible, I think helps out so that people can kind of see that we have a lot of the same shared goals. I think importantly for STEM individuals is giving them a challenge. If they know they have a challenge and we're here to offer them a challenge, and we can provide a supportive environment for that challenge, that's very attractive to people in the field that we're in. And I think that's probably the most important thing. If people are bored or they have to do COBOL or something like that, they're probably not going to be too happy. So.